6:30, Wednesday, August 27th, Public Works Committee meeting. I'm Counselor Dr. Wright calling this meeting to order. Before we get into the agenda, counselors, if you would look at items 11 and 12. Is there any objection to moving those ahead of item number 10?
Perfect.
From anyone? Or should we move them earlier? Are these other ones gonna go fast?
Agree.
All right. Without objection, we'll take 11 and 12 ahead of number 10 so that our staff can get back to work. Okay, back on the agenda. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing the sale of bonds, fixing the amount of bonds to mature each year, fixing the time and place of the bonds are to be sold, and authorizing the clerk to give notice of said sale as required by law for general obligation bond series 2025A in the amount of $107,705,000. This does carry the emergency clause and is on for tonight. Hello, Mr. Becker.
Hello, counselors. Good afternoon. Chad Becker here from Treasury. As the agenda item says, we're in GO issuance season again. These are the general obligation bond series 2025A in the amount of $107,705,000. We structured these over 14 maturities, and this does have funds from both the 2019 and the 2023 authorizations. This is the 6th issuance of the 2019 authorization and the 5th issuance of the 2023 authorization. There's a list of projects included in the packet. These bonds will fund streets projects, community facilities, and public safety buildings and facilities. We're basing projections for this issuance around rates that we pulled back in mid-July. Bloomberg rate estimates for AA plus GO bonds plus 50 basis points, looking to be in the range of 3 to 4.7% on rates and a projected true interest cost of 4%. Obviously here today to discuss, and then this will be on the agenda this evening for a vote, the resolution to approve the authorizing the sale and proceeding forward with the bond sale. We've got the sale date set for September 17th. We'll be back before council on that day to bring you the results of the sale and seek your approval of the award of the bid to the lowest and best bidder. GO bonds carry a protest period. The GO bonds go to the State Attorney General for review and approval. So we will not actually close these bonds until the first part of November, November 4th to be exact. So again, here we'll be with you this evening requesting your approval to authorize the sale.
Any questions? No? Okay, well, we'll see you tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is an ordinance closing a certain portion of a public way located at 3608 North Quaker Avenue, Comanche Park Edition, requested by Jamie Skipper of Wallace Design Collective on behalf of the Housing Authority of the City of Tulsa for future expansion in District 1. There's a public hearing tonight, and the vote is on the 10th. Hello, Mr. Lichty.
Good afternoon, councilors. Matt Lichty, Public Works. We have received an application to close the roads that are in Comanche Park. The Tulsa Housing Authority is redeveloping this property to 36N, and the current configuration of the streets do not work with that redevelopment. And so these streets do not connect to anything next to them. Therefore, we are comfortable with them being closed, and we would ask that you approve this ordinance.
Good. Anything from anyone on that? All right. Thank you. Item number 4 is a change order number 1 to contract number 137002 between the City of Tulsa and Magnum Construction, Inc. for project number SB22-12A and SB22-12B in the amount of $0, adding 151 calendar days due to delays for product selection and lead time on wrapped fabric panels in Districts 1 and 4. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ryan McCaskill, Field Engineering Manager. What's presented is a change order just for time allowance. What it ended up being was a authorization allowance that was approved through staff, and the time was just the delay in the lead time for the fabric for sound deadening upstairs.
Okay. Any questions from the counselors? No? All right, thank you. Item number 5 is a license agreement between the City of Tulsa and St. Francis Hospital South LLC for property located at 10501 East 91st Street, St. Francis South Addition, to install and maintain a concrete raised curb directional median within the street right-of-way. This is in District 7. He's back, Mr. Lichty.
Yes. So, St. Francis has a hospital they developed at 91st and 169, and as part of that, they have added a directional island in their driveway, and so they come to us for a license agreement, and it has been reviewed by various boards, authorities, and commissions with no issues, and we recommend you approve this license agreement.
Great, that's on for the 10th for a vote for anyone who wants to look into it and make comment. Okay, item number 6 is a license agreement between the City of Tulsa and Utica Plaza Company LLC for property located at 2108 South Utica, lots 1 through 4, Terwilliger Terrace and Terwilliger Heights additions to install and maintain a decorative pattern and stained sidewalk on the street right away in District 4.
Are 7 and 8 related to the same?
Yes, if you want to read
All three of
7
them?
and 8, that would be,
With 6?
yes.
Okay. Item 7 is a license agreement between the city and Utica Plaza Company at the same location for Lot 9 on Terwilliger Terrace and Terwilliger Heights. This is a tongue twister. To install a decorative pattern and stained sidewalk. And item number 8 is for the same location, but lots 4 and 5 for installation of a decorative pattern and stained sidewalk. These are all together.
Yes, so there is an existing pattern stained concrete at 21st and Utica in front of this building. They came to us to make a repair, and it was noted that they did not have a license agreement. There is reinforcing in this concrete, and so at this time, we said we wanted to go ahead and license all of it. And the repair they're making will not include any reinforcement, and in the license agreement, it does say that if they have to make a future repair, they will not place reinforcement in that, because that could hinder our ability to perform maintenance in our right of way. So that being said, it has been reviewed by various boards, authorities, and commissions with no objections, and we would recommend you approve these 3 license agreements.
Any questions or comments? Okay, item number 9 is a resolution requesting, hold on a second. Are you on number 11 too?
No, that's Henry.
Okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure you can go if you need to. Item number 9 is a resolution requesting quality event designation for the 2025 Arabian Horse Association U.S. Nationals to be held in October on the 16th to 25th. Identifying the City of Tulsa as the event's host community. This does carry the emergency clause, and it's on for a vote next time on the 10th. Hello.
Patty Croucher with Tulsa Regional Chamber, Visit Tulsa. This resolution is designating the City of Tulsa as the host community for the annual Arabian Horse Show at Expo Square, but also the Tulsa CVB as the certified sponsor for the event to allow us to apply for quality event reimbursement through the Oklahoma Tax Commission. So this is a great event. I think some of you went to a tour of the event last year potentially, but
This is generally how we do this one, so
Yes.
it's not, it's SOP. Any questions from anyone?
That's
All
pretty
right.
cool.
Great. So now we'll be on item number 11, then 12, then we'll go back to 10. Item number 11 is a discussion and update with the Director of Public Works or his designee on the city's capital programs. Hello.
Good
Oh, it's
afternoon.
big paper, always
Good
fun.
handout. And each packet is different, it's labeled for each individual council district, so please don't get them confused.
Okay. For everyone at the table and in the room and at home, will you just tell us who you are and your official?
Sure, Henry Sumserve, Public Works Department.
Some to surf is the last name. There's only one at the city.
3 different words.
Yes, three words.
It all runs together though.
I'm drawing a blank, and I shouldn't.
It's okay, come over here and I'll help you.
Don't tell us, just keep it to yourself.
so awkward.
But I still enjoy it.
He skipped.
Oh, I see.
Better he than me.
It's being expedient and he's being an efficiency expert. Let's
I
listen to
put yellow
Mr.
stickies on
Thompson.
So the package, okay. The package you may or may not yet have, they have 3 drawings and 3 listing of projects, and each of those is, one is for the IoT 1 program, the other is next for the IoT 2019, otherwise known as IoT 2, and the third one is IoT 3. And each map has a code number, and if you look on the following sheets, there's a correlation of the code number to the project name and project status.
Also
And
just,
you can,
yeah, because because it's two packages before redistricting. On the last page, you'll see your current district boundaries. On the first two maps, you're gonna see the old district boundaries. For anyone,
So that is a complication,
yes, thank you. Everyone got it?
And overall status at this point, we received all the funding for IoT one. We're wrapping up the design on those, and all those should be going to construction within this fiscal year. We're pretty much right in the middle of IoT two, so we're still constructing and designing those projects. And IoT three, we've received a little bit of funding. We also received the widening funding for the 4 widening projects this fall, so we'll get design started on those. And then all of the programs have ongoing routine and preventative maintenance projects, and those aren't capital projects. Those are done by our street staff, both for the non-arterial streets and arterial streets. And so those will be ongoing for about the next 5 years or so through these 3 programs.
Thank you. Just for the new counselors, on the IoT three, you're gonna see probably not very much in your district, because it was just gap funding for IoT one and two.
And IoT three also has citywide bridge funding, and I believe every district except for 5 has bridge projects in IoT three. But District 5 certainly does have the routine and preventative projects on the non-arterial and arterials.
Okay, I have Counselor Bellis has a question, comment?
So where any road construction's done, are we replacing sidewalks that are abutting the road too? Or I'm just curious if that's part of most of these projects.
It's variable.
Okay.
Certainly in IoT one, we did a lot more extensive repair of both the road and the sidewalks. And based on funding constraints, as we go into IoT two, due to inflation, we had to reduce those down a bit. So really, it's a case by case on the
Okay.
extent of the sidewalk we do.
Okay.
We do have separate sidewalk funding, so if there is a need to do a new sidewalk corridor, we have either a city funding or a number of grant opportunities to
Like
put
the
in
town
sidewalks through those.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking, just naming to my colleagues for, I know an item we'll be tackling later. I know we're looking at like those design standards of making sure we have that 18-inch offset, which isn't embedded in a lot of our, other parts of policies or in our sidewalks. And I'm just trying to think through first whether we're building new sidewalks or as some of these construction projects play out, trying to, acknowledging that there's major funding constraints, make sure as many of them can be built with that safety standard as possible. But it sounds like that's really funding constrained. So I don't know.
Yeah,
or
I
that
probably
may
do
not-
need to reiterate the citywide funding for sidewalk is small.
Okay,
But to Counselor Bellis's point on some of these widening projects and things, it comes with sidewalks.
Yes.
Or it was planned to come with
Right.
sidewalks.
Okay.
But am I hearing that maybe due
So
to-
the widening jobs, yes, those would have sidewalks, more of the rehab of the arterials. Sometimes we're limited on the extent of sidewalk we can add. And typically with the non-arterials, unless it's an existing sidewalk and we're just upgrading the access ramps and tripping hazards, we're not adding wholesale new sidewalks as part of the non-arterial street jobs.
Any other questions now? I think if anyone wants to do a deeper dive, we can just have Sarah and or the aide schedule like one-on-one time to
Sure.
really
Follow up whatever we need to.
improveourtulsa.com. The public can still navigate to these interactive maps and click through and see.
I think probably the easiest way, if you just go to the City of Tulsa website, there's links on that that get to the maps.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Progress is promised. Item number 12 is a discussion and update with the Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation, or her designee, on the city's capital programs. Good afternoon.
All right. I brought paper. Always bring paper.
Hi, good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon, Council on America, a bunch of things, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation, and we've got, I think everybody here knows Mary Womble, who is head of the CAB, City Architectural Building Services, and Steve Lassman, who is over all the Parks Capital projects. And they have lengthy lists here, which you also should have had in your backup, and they're distributing here, and I'll let them just kind of hit, there are so many things on here, I know there may be things you're particularly interested in, they're each gonna hit on a couple of the highlight projects, and then happy to answer any additional questions or get you any additional follow-up if you want. Since we thought we were last on a lengthy item, I kept coaching him. I was like, okay, be prepared to be just like,
Well, I'm glad you
Dot, dot,
did,
dot.
because I'm looking at the clock, because we do have a lengthy, if we could keep it to about 10 minutes here, unless it's really
okay,
necessary.
so
that
you guys
gives
be
us
quick, and then.
Time to really get into the agenda item.
And then if you do have follow-up things in addition to here, obviously, we're happy to, send an email, we can get you additional information, so, all right,
So
Mary? you wanna-
Steve's first, and then we have 3 reports here.
Yep, I'm just gonna hit some highlights here, but feel free to ask questions about any of the other projects we've got listed. Number 3, the Woodward Park improvements. We've got work underway for major landscaping and pond improvements at Woodward Park. Currently have the ponds being excavated, as well as the large storm pipe, and then digging out foundations for the retaining walls. We are expecting the storm pipe to start arriving on site by the end of August to begin replacing the storm pipe north of the ponds, and continued excavation of the ponds for retaining walls and the pond foundation. Still probably a little under another year of construction before this is completed and open to the public. Number 5, Fred Johnson Park improvements. Just today, we actually received our 100% drawings from Land Plan. We'll be sending these out for review by the other city departments and getting any last comments in before sending this out to bid. So expecting to get this out to bid sometime next month and begin construction by the end of the year. Fred Johnson Park will have about a year of construction as well. It should be open to the public beginning of 2027. Project number 9, our citywide court rehabilitation, and there's a list at the back of your packet showing the progress we've made so far. We've got resurfacings underway at a number of sites right now to refinish or convert courts throughout the city. We are on the 2nd year of these refinishings in yellow and making our way through, recently finished up the courts at Lacey, Ziegler, and Highland Park. Project number 13, our Hill Park improvements. We have got PDG selected as the design consultant for this project. Working on contracting with them to begin on a design agreement and start working with them. Once we have a contract with them and begin the design process, we will have a couple additional community engagement sessions with PDG and members of the neighborhood to get additional input on what they want to see at Hill Park when we do this redesign. Project 18, our outdoor park play amenities. This is to replace or enhance playgrounds throughout the city. We are working through these playgrounds right now. Recently completed playgrounds include New Block, Lakeview, Rosedew, Aronson, Boeing. Currently, we've got Mannion and Benton underway with further replacements planned at other sites. And then also have a full list of playgrounds at the back of your packet. Projects 26 and 27, the Berry and Chamberlain Park improvements. We are finishing up design and going through the infrastructure development process with our architects there, Studio Zodi. So they are submitting those plans for IDP review, and then following approvals there, we'll be ready to start bidding both of those projects out. And that will be a new rec center and park redesign at Chamberlain, and then a new park redesign at Berry Park. And finally, number 28, Dreamkeepers Park improvements. We recently selected TSW as the design consultant for this, also working on contracting with them before beginning a design agreement and starting design with TSW. Feel free to let me know if you have any other questions on these items.
Any questions on these? Councilor Bellis?
Just in general, I just wanted to verify one more time for all these park projects that those swans at Swan Lake did not come from the Parks Department.
That is correct.
Still true, okay. I'm sorry, this has just been a great mystery, but I guess you can always buy your own swans.
It sounds like a children's book in the making.
It really
The
is.
fountain was just so nice, they had to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have more presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
The next packet, or next section in your packet, first project on that list, 815 South Riverside Drive. That is the Crybaby Hill statue. We are looking at locating the statue someplace within the city along Route 66. Not a final destination yet, but an idea that looks pretty promising as far as where that's going to go. Next.
Repeat that again, where did you say it was?
Don't know exactly, but
In discussion with the property owner that until we figure out if it's logistically right, we don't want everyone to kind of jump on this person, but more toward East Tulsa, so which is, I think, one of the goals, to try to figure out how we can get some more amenities east, to spread some of the Route 66 love that direction.
more
One
to
of
come
your
on
fellow
that.
counselors could give you some background.
I know, but I mean, it's just weird to put the crybaby in a
We're calling it the
different-
melancholy child.
I don't wanna talk about
statue.
Okay.
It's always gonna be too soon.
It's already paid for, that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Yay for a city that invests in public art.
Yes.
We'll find a home.
It'll be as logical as the blue whale, I'll just promise you that.
Perfect. I predict it'll become the photo spot wherever it ends up, so
It's
whoever gets
actually,
it, it's gonna be.
I think
I think it's gonna be pretty cool, the proposal, so,
Yeah.
that we're looking at, yeah.
Oh, Woodland Hills, I'm here, yep, there we go.
With that food court, what?
We do have all the baby stores in town, for the most part. Anyway, next.
Okay, next project, number 5, Tulsa Performing Arts Center IoT3 renovations. We are shortlisted for 2 construction managers. We will interview them next week. The design has started, so that one is getting underway. Next project, number 8, the animal shelter. We are well in construction on that one. They've poured the east half of the building slab, west half will be poured, weather permitting, later this week. That one is moving full steam ahead. Let's see, number 11, Greenwood Cultural Center. That project has gone in for permitting. We're getting ready to go out to bid on that one, so we can start construction hopefully later this fall or potentially early January, depending on when that hits. Number 12, Public Safety Center. We are in meetings at least once a week. Had a meeting today. Get that project within budget. There's a lot of wants, but we are confident we can get there. There's a lot of phasing moves that we have talked about to meet the schedule of demolishing the police courts building in order to do that. So that's driving the schedule on this one. Tulsa Zoo Carnivores and African Wilds, that project, number 13, that project started construction in May of this year. That's moving ahead. About 8 buildings on that. It's going to totally it'll be a brand-new kind of area when they get finished, but it's well under construction on that. That one is scheduled to be complete May of '27. Let's see, Tulsa Zoo Rainforest, HVAC, we just are selecting the contractor on that. The bids opened a couple of weeks ago, so we'll be started on that soon. That's HVAC and electrical upgrades, much needed out there. BOK Center and Arvest Convention Center, we are working with OVG and others on phasing and getting that one in budget. That one is over budget right now. Working on what we can do for that. Number 22, Bell Station, we are working on those upgrades. Sound panels in the train depot, and to make that a little bit easier, more comfortable listening experience when people rent out the facility, and also some minor upgrades to the house, and trying to get these completed in by next spring for the centennial. That is really all the highlights on that list. Third packet is Vision Tulsa projects. Really 3 on those. I'd like to point out 2, South Tulsa Jinx Lake Dam. Our group is not overseeing that, but we are reporting on it. They are working on a 10% cost estimate due February 2026. There's several workshops. 2 have already happened, 2 are going to happen coming up at the end of September, and a 4th one if needed. Just exploring all the additional needs for the dam and gate and pedestrian bridge. It's a fairly large project, trying to make sure the estimates include everything. Gilchrist Museum, number 6. We are getting close to finishing the building. The stairs and the panels are painting the handrails right now, so the panels finally showed up after 9 months. So that is getting that closed out. Should be another substantial completion for the building at the end of September. The exhibits are going in the background. The exhibits are scheduled to be done at the end of 2026. So the museum itself is going to open early 2027. And then the last project, just to highlight, is number 11, citywide gateway signage. On that one, we are working with ODOT on the two Route 66 gateway signs on either end, and trying to come up with a location that meets ODOT's requirements. They don't want people pulling off unsafely taking pictures, so we're working with ODOT on where those signs can be located, but still getting those constructed by the Centennial. That's the highlights.
Okay, any questions or comments? If you need to do a deeper dive with some of the things you've heard here today, then definitely make some time through staff, and we'll
Yep.
go over.
I wanted to just mention real quickly too, we worked with a couple of the counselors at their request, because they were interested in investing either the community funds or other opportunities. So, and provided a list of various, kind of working with them on their priorities and what some of the opportunities are within this space. So if any other counselors want that, staff is happy to work with you to kind of come up with a list of potential, like we did with Counselor Bengal and with some folks working with Counselor Gilbert. And then just a suggestion, only because Nick Sidorkas came to Sales Tax Overview Committee yesterday to give an update on what's happening with the golf courses, and it was so affirming and positive to see some of the changes there. It might be a nice thing to have him come to one of your committee meetings, just to let you guys know what's going on there. I think there's just some really exciting things in terms of outreach in the community and the improvement on the courses and things like that, that it would be great to let you guys hear about, so. We can work with staff to get that on the future agenda if you'd like.
Thank you, you guys were awesome, just 2 minutes over. I say this out of love, whenever Director America or I are on a passionate spiel, it can go long. Thank you, thank you. Okay, now we're on item 10, ordinance amending Tulsa revised ordinances, Title 37, titled Tulsa Revised Traffic Code, Chapter 11, titled Pedestrians' Rights and Duties, renaming Section 1105, sitting, lying upon, or standing in or adjacent to a roadway, establishing minimum horizontal clearance, establishing safety measures, amending Title 37, Chapter 2, titled Traffic Administration, Section 203, titled Forms, Warrants, Bonds, and Penalties, to reflect the amended title of Section 1105. This has the emergency clause and is on for tonight, second reading. We have a new group of sponsors, Archie, Gilbert, Lakin, and Bush. There's one new sponsor from last time, so I think, Counselor Lakin, this is your ordinance though, so I will kick it to you.
Yeah, I thought you all put it back on. I do have a presentation to go through
Oh,
just
I
because
put
I
it
know
back
there were
on.
some,
Yeah.
because I know
give
there were
us
some
a-
questions
yeah.
and things, so I'll go through that whenever you all want
Okay,
to.
is it updated from last week, or,
Oh, yeah, it's different.
I think that would be
So
good,
if it's-
it might address questions.
yeah, is it
Sure,
reflecting like
yep.
the spirit of
Let
last
me get
week's
the-
conversation?
Yeah.
How did we end up with a new co-sponsor?
I don't know. I think he decided to sign on.
Is that what we're doing now? We'll just put our name on stuff?
Is there a problem with that? I mean, isn't that the way that we
It's
work?
atypical, at least
No,
in the 7 years
last time,
I've been here.
last week I was asked whether or not a working group brought this together, and, you know, counselors can bring things on their own accord if they want to, just like Counselor Patrick did, and
Oh, yeah.
you've done, and other people have done. I mean, it doesn't have to come through a working group.
Oh, I know it doesn't, it's just usually, well, since I've been here, which is only 7 years, if there's a co-sponsorship situation, all those people have an active role in drafting, so it's a little confusing is all. But if that's how we're gonna do things, I'll just ask. But
I don't
Thank you for
recall
doing
that being
updates.
the case, though, but we can talk about that later.
it's
That's
a
here and
practice.
now.
The observed practice.
Well, I would disagree. So, to the ordinance, this is what we went over last time. I just want to remind people that this is about public safety, that we have significant safety concerns. This is unfortunately the area in my district where somebody died and someone was critically injured. We used federal traffic control guidelines and standards. That's how we got the 18 inches. We didn't pull that from anything other than AASHTO and practices and procedures used by our own engineers and engineers all across the country. We know that it applies to streets with speeds greater than 25 miles an hour. We know that it's focused in on sitting, lying upon, standing in, or on, that it does not account at all for people walking on sidewalks. So this is not about walking. I've had multiple interactions online with two people, more specifically, who continue to state that it's about walking. If you're walking on a sidewalk, you can walk on the sidewalk wherever you want to. Yet, I would advise people not to walk in that 18-inch gap based upon what those people who have professional safety qualifications continue to advise us about placing things in or on that area. So, data, I know that you all wanted more data. I have no idea what happened with formatting here. It was converted from a PDF, from a PowerPoint to a PDF. It did not look like this whenever it was in PowerPoint, but this is the only way that we could make it work up here. So, the most recent data I was able to find online was from the National Highway Traffic Standard Safety Administration.
Is this national data or just,
Uh-huh.
okay.
National,
No.
which and there is some local data, and then I had to use extrapolation just to do as best as possible, because it doesn't really, the report itself focuses in some more specific information on cities that have more than 500,000 people population, but we're under that for sure. So 7,314 pedestrians killed in 2023, 68,000 injured. 84% of these in urban areas, so the vast majority in places like Tulsa. 17% of them at intersections, 9% on sidewalks, medians, and things like that. So, Oklahoma, out of all the 7,300 pedestrians that were killed, luckily, we only had 87 fatalities. Unfortunately, we had 87 fatalities and probably 812 injuries. I had to extrapolate on that number, because it does not provide injury number for the state of Oklahoma. Then if you do some math and extrapolation, 17% at the intersections would equate to about 15 fatalities statewide. In intersections, 8 statewide in sidewalks and medians. And then, I don't know what you want to assign to the city of Tulsa, 25% of that. 20% of it, it's still a pretty big number of fatalities in intersections and fatalities in sidewalks and medians. Same thing on the injuries, 138 injuries statewide in intersections, 73 injuries statewide on sidewalks. Anybody have any questions so far? The penalties, as we talked about, we did not change any of the penalties. They've been $150 since at least 2017. They still would be $150 if this goes forward as written and as drafted. And it encourages people just to practice safer behaviors and stay away from the areas where we have cars traveling at very high speeds. As we know, we've spent 5 to 6 years really focusing in on better services, special services, diversion programs, and everything else within our court systems. And I have no problem whatsoever with people utilizing our court systems, because I really feel like they're getting a fair trial, and they're getting excellent services from not just our court, but all the social service programs that are there to help them make it through the wide variety of things that they're dealing with. We were asked about penalties in other cities. Houston just created a ordinance that bans sleeping, sitting, and setting things down on sidewalks. It's 24/7 downtown, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. elsewhere, and it's a Class C misdemeanor in the state of Texas, so that's up to $500. San Francisco has evidently had one of the books, predominantly in the downtown area.
Can I just ask a clarifying question for these? Because these are similar to our, sidewalk obstruction ordinance.
Not necessarily.
I just wasn't sure if any of these had, physical space, this many inch specifications. That was
I didn't go deep
Okay.
into all of these.
Okay, that was just,
So sure.
sorry, I
So
know I
not the
interrupted.
18
Which I
No,
haven't
you're
done
good.
Which I never
for
do.
you later.
Yeah, I didn't look to
Okay.
see if they had the 18-inch.
Okay, because I'm seeing these as
Element.
comparisons to our like sidewalk obstruction, like, you know, don't obstruct, don't lie, create a boat, et cetera, on the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
there's, I mean,
More
but,
than to like an 18-inch
but this,
gap.
yeah, but the standing, sitting, it's, you know, our obstruction ordinance is obstructing the entire sidewalk. It's not obstructing a portion of the
I see what you're
sidewalk.
saying.
And some of
Okay.
these are portions of sidewalks and just sitting and standing.
Okay.
And then the setting of personal possessions on sidewalks seems to be something that has been incorporated into a few of these, beyond just Houston, but I can't remember. There's a number of
Which one's
others on here.
portion? I'm not catching it.
The setting on sidewalks, Houston,
Is that
setting.
the whole sidewalk or a portion thereof?
Oh, I'm not saying, I think it just says setting personal objects on sidewalks is illegal.
Which is like our obstruction orders, but which of these is just a portion of the sidewalk?
That's what I just answered. I don't know which one is just a portion.
Oh,
I
are
think it's
any of
just,
these?
We don't know.
that's what I'm saying. I don't,
Okay, so none of these, as far as we know, are a portion.
yeah, go ahead.
I think some of them are in that, like, I think the Houston one is an outright ban during certain hours, and so,
You can't
and,
sit
and
there,
certain
period.
locations.
Right, right.
And so, yes, I think it would be a portion of a
Like
sidewalk.
linear feet versus inches from the curb.
No, I don't think it's that, but it's just
None.
setting something, whether it's your person or a thing, on the sidewalk. So it's not
Right,
a full
accessibility issue.
obstruction, it's
Any portion of the
As
sidewalk.
any portion.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see the other ones too. So the range of fines really is from, in Florida, from $500 to the first offense to $500 in jail for future offenses. Houston has $500, San Francisco $50 to $100, Seattle $50. Then there's others too. I just didn't provide all the data here because I truly didn't have enough time to go through and study each one of these. And I'll get this for you. Last time, Counselor Bella showed us a map of just the streets across the city of Tulsa that have speeds over 25 miles an hour that could be affected by this. Now, I've not driven every street in every single district. I did spend an hour driving down the streets on Google Maps, which is a lot faster than driving in person. But I just did every district. And we've also, you know, had some urban designers say, hey, if you practice good urban design, then we wouldn't have these problems. And thankfully, I really do think that we have some good urban design, that we've really taken a lot of this into account. Going back to our previous conversation, even with our engineering services department, you know, they have really thoughtfully constructed, not every one of our sidewalks, but a lot of our newer sidewalks for sure. So this is at, did it say 2100 or 2700 North Peoria? So we can see that the sidewalk isn't even in play. There's no issue with this sidewalk. You can stand on it, you can sit on it, you can walk on it. It doesn't matter because you're more than 18 inches away from the roadway because there's a grass strip down the vast majority of this section of Peoria, and then the same thing on the other side. In District 2, and I just grabbed random pictures. So, and you can grab random pictures just as well, where you can show just the opposite of this, where you'd go, well, you know what, we're gonna have a problem here where somebody couldn't stand within 18 inches of the roadway. Same thing here, just good sidewalk design where we've been able to distance the sidewalk from the curb very intentionally and according to very good urban design standards. District 3, 1700 North Sheridan, this is pretty close to the really good fish place. So you can walk on either side of the road here, and this sidewalk has, yeah, so this sidewalk doesn't have any sidewalk issues. This sidewalk does get a little bit worse as you go a little bit further south because it goes across parking lots. And there's no, and you just walk across parking lots in these places. District 4, this is about where my mirror got busted off because the guy next to me I ran into his mirror, he ran into my mirror, but this is one of the most narrow sections of roadway that we have. Even here, again, we have that 18-inch spacing, and pretty much the entire length of Lewis, which was shocking in my mind because every time I drive up it, it seems like everybody's really close, but we do have the separation. So, you know, if the map is relevant, you actually have to remove all these places where it's really technically
Where there's no
impossible to
clearance.
stand on a sidewalk and violate the law, given that and you can, if you're standing in the grass, then that's different, but you're not standing on a sidewalk.
I think I was picturing more like Charles Page.
Oh,
Just some
yeah.
older, like less invested in areas.
Yeah.
that- Yeah.
Yep. I grabbed the best part of District 5, which I'm sure Counselor Gilbert is really happy of, the 41st and Sheridan intersection. This is District 6, so out in East Tulsa, and we have two different kinds here. We've got the brick paver stamped concrete kind on this side, and then you have the separation on this side of the road. So here, yeah, people could be walking on the stamped concrete, but it's, in my mind, not safe to do so, and I just don't see very many people in my district who are walking on sidewalks or standing on sidewalks, standing in the stamped concrete portion. District 7, you got the separation. This is on the new portion, 71st to 81st on Mingo, and we just talked about that with engineering services. This is in South Tulsa, District 8, same thing. You got stamped on one side, separation on the other, and then here's District 9 at 55th and Lewis. So another good example, and really, I was pretty shocked as I continued to drive down a number of these roads at how good of a job we've done in separating our sidewalks from the roadways. Again, you can find plenty of instances where we still have a lot of good work to do, but I was pretty happy in the grand scheme of things. And then last, I would say that the Tale of One median, this is at 91st and Yale, so this is August of '24, and this is just what happens to our median. Unfortunately, there's an individual who sits out against, well, he did sit against this sign, and you'll see why he doesn't sit against this sign anymore. But, I don't know, multiple times a week, he or his daughter or somebody he's related to sit out here, exposed to very high rates of speed through this intersection. So this is what it looked like in '24. This is what it looks like in '25. That sign is gone, and this curve is a little bit more beat up. And then this is what it looks like today, where cars have continued to hit the end cap of that median, and this was the sign. It's now been torn away from the median itself. Oh, is that
Right.
that could be the guy?
Could be the guy.
Um,
No, different intersection.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I saw a guy in a wheelchair yesterday at 71st and Yale, and I still don't know how he was able to get out there. And I've already told the story about the guy in the wheelchair who fell over into traffic, and people from traffic were trying to get him back in his wheelchair so they could put him back on the median.
this is 71st and Lewis.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then, just because we talked about the Country Bird
I know, there's a
Bakery,
wide
I
sidewalk.
just wanted to make sure that, I think everybody is okay here. If they are.
I can't tell if it's 18 inches or not, I know. I'm kidding.
This is probably further than 18 inches right here in the bottom. I think the sign itself is safe, but if people are waiting in line, it looks like they're 10 to 15 feet away from the road. Hopefully safe. You can never guarantee safety on any of our roadways for our pedestrians, unfortunately, but that would be my hope. And I think the patrons of Country Bird Bakery are okay generally, and they're definitely safe from the evils of the ordinance.
Well, and from your mirror.
And from the mirror, yeah, and I do think Country Bird owes us some kind of baked goods just because we said Country Bird Bakery so many times.
I know, we've done such good advertising for their James Beard.
I too drove past them this weekend.
She pointed out to me, she's like, that's a wide sidewalk road. I was like, fine.
Yeah,
Verified.
so I have
Did you just
more
drive by, or
information
did you
too.
get out and stand in line?
I did not get out and stand
I
in
know,
line.
people should.
When we talk about fines, I could go into the fines that we have for pedestrians specifically. I know we've talked about cars parked in front yards and other things. It seems like we've been fined with a $150 fine, but I understand that other people have other ideas now compared to what we've had collectively or had the opportunity to change individually over the last 8 years, or however long we've served on the council. So I'll stop now, and then when we get into the fine discussion, I can bring up additional fine elements.
Okay. Counselor Bellis, did you have your hand up, or should I go
Yeah, I
first?
did.
Okay.
I can be kind of brief. Yeah, I think I'm still having trouble, again, to me, the median part makes all the sense in the world. I know they're not designed for humans to be on. I still, when I look at sidewalks, they're meant to be public rights of way, and I understand the safety concerns. We don't have good pedestrian infrastructure, that's been said. I think my struggle is still this difference between standing versus walking, and if that makes it safer or not, or how this blends with our sidewalk obstruction ordinance. You know, I know I gave the example last time, okay, I'm in that space trying to get a toddler in the car, and of course, our police officer was like, no one, that's reasonable use, whatnot. Another example, I was trying to think through, because when I still just read the policy as it is written, it would apply to some of these scenarios, because it doesn't explicitly say that it's not. You know, I know I see this happen in areas a lot, especially like at night, which again, I understand the extra safety concern then, but someone's ordered a, Uber or something like that, you get closer and closer to the road because you're looking for your car. You need to read the license plate to make sure you're being safe and getting in the right car, and people are standing there for that. And we don't have TPD here to answer this, but I'm like, would that person be, to me, there's just like all of these kind of muddy spaces where I trust a lot of our current leadership and police leadership, et cetera, to use good discretion on this, but who's to say once you have something like this in policy, what that looks like in the future? This is why a lot of cities have revisited jaywalking policies, because of the discretion can sometimes be weaponized. So I just pictured someone could be waiting for their Uber, and based on how this is written, that could become an issue. Or if someone in a wheelchair is within that area looking for their Lyft, L-I-F-T, Lyft ride, that accessible ride, they could be in that area. I know so many areas of sidewalk, and again, I'm picturing like Charles Page, where there's just I've done some walk audits, there was some really old infrastructure. And so I think what I'm struggling with the sidewalk piece specifically, again, and in the public, what I see on the news too, is that this is a median policy, and it's a panhandler policy. And I know we're sitting here at this table going, no, this is broader safety. And so that's why I keep also bringing up the sidewalks, because I want to make sure people realize it's applying to a portion or a good amount of city sidewalks that we're not aware of exactly, but I still struggle with the way I read it. It applies to a lot of these other situations, but when we say, oh, no, it wouldn't, no one would arrest the person doing that or someone waiting for their Uber, then I'm like, okay, so who's the citation for? Who would we be looking for that would be doing an unsafe thing in that part of the sidewalk? I'm having trouble, I'm like, is it just if someone is sitting there, they'd have to be sitting for an extended period of time? I've just had trouble understanding what the sidewalk activity is, because we have the sit-lie kind of don't obstruct the sidewalk policy. Is it written right now, you're saying people can sit in that 18-inch area, and that's the issue?
They can right now, because we're going to have any
Right.
regulations relating to it. So
How
on,
much in the just to add to one piece of that as you're about to
Yeah.
answer, in that our sidewalk obstruction ordinance, how much space of clearance does that say that they have to leave if they are on the sidewalk? Does anyone remember?
It's not a distance, it's like,
I thought it was sitting or lying anywhere in the sidewalk, whether it's 18 inches or up against.
Or do they
the
have to leave a certain amount of
no, it's a
clearance?
complete,
no, it's a reasonableness standard
Is
for
it?
passing.
For people
I-
passing.
And we had talked about ADA standards. and
Right.
It was 4 feet as kind of being,
If we have a 5-foot sidewalk and we're saying 4 feet's about the ADA standard, are we now, when we're looking at our sidewalks, is that 18 inches cutting into that 4-foot clearance? That's the other thing, I'm not sure how these policies overlap.
yeah, it's a good question while he's looking for this. For me, if we're going to say 18 inches is a safe distance for medians, because that's what we have to use, because
Right.
that's the federal standard that's
Right, for
been dictated
medians.
to us. Well, for distance from roadways, so that's the standard, distance from roadways. So 18 inches is the distance from the roadway on the median. You have the same 40-mile-an-hour car
Yeah.
that's still traveling down the road, that you need the same 18 inches worth of safety distance between. If we're not willing, as engineers or a city, to say that's a safe space to go into, we don't want to put poles, signs, benches, nothing in that space, because we don't think it's safe for the drivers, we don't think it's safe for other objects to be in that space. Then how can we encourage? We're not encouraging, we're just not discouraging people from actually occupying that space too. I think Councilor Bingle said it last time, you'd never walk with one of his kids. I would never,
Right.
I would never, whenever I'm walking down the street with Adrian, I'm like, please walk on the other side of me. Don't walk on the traffic side. I want to take the hit first. And we always, I think we always walk as far away from the traffic as we can.
Oh, of course.
And I, as a counselor, always really work with engineers to get that sidewalk as far away from the curb as we can. That's all. So I personally, as a sponsor, as one of 4 sponsors for this, I'm trying to do is trying to get people to stand, sit, do any activity really,
Further away from
further away from the traffic.
I think I appreciate that. It's just we have a lot of older sidewalk and infrastructure and that have utility poles that block things. We just actually got PSO to saw down a older telephone pole a few weeks ago where someone with a wheelchair couldn't get around it at the Reesers at 15th and Lewis because it was like dead center in a narrow sidewalk that doesn't have that 18-inch difference. It directly abuts 15th Street right there. I think I'm just thinking of so many areas like that where these design standards are never about to be met. In the near future, we just heard that there's not money to make that feasible. So to me, I'm like, we're adding in a criminalization element that has to do with the design standard that's a really good safety one that I'm so glad that that's what we're doing with anything new that we can. But we're just hearing that we don't have the funding to apply that across our whole city. So then my big concern is we're putting in like what is a criminalization element with the design standard when it's not something that we can actually go and provide to all of these sidewalks right now. And there are people that have no choice but to walk on some of these sidewalks, or since we're saying, hey, it is okay to,
Fine,
like,
they can walk.
right, okay, but I'm also saying, or they might stop and rest, or wait for an Uber ride, or be looking, it's just like there's.
We're just saying, just do it outside of that. It's, until we can get to them, I'm just hoping that we can say to them as well,
Yeah.
look, this is an unsafe place to stand, to sit, to rest. Do it over here, do whatever you need to on the sidewalk.
But I still don't
along the
understand what the
side.
difference is, like we talked about last time though, and I asked that kind of physics question. If someone's walking in that space for X amount of time versus standing in it, I don't see the difference either. And so to me, it just sounds like we're doing a certain, like we're kind of, and knowing that most pedestrian, what I had a stat. Here we go. From the general restriction on pedestrian activity in 25-mile-per-hour roadways is pretty broad. Most pedestrian fatalities caused by cars occur on roadways with 45-mile-per-hour speed limits. Knowing that, and then we're looking at 25-mile-per-hour speed limits, and we're like talking about just sidewalks that are designed for pedestrians. I also think it's just confusing. Sidewalks are a place that people can be that's away from cars, and now we're saying, oh, but they're not enough away from cars. I just find that. I understand what you're saying with the safety piece, but it's confusing because it's a place that's made for humans to occupy, and now we're restricting a pretty, like enough of a portion of it. That's also hard for people to potentially gauge or measure.
And I'm just saying,
Yeah.
apply the standard equally.
But you
If we're
also
applying
put-
the standard on medians,
Which-
18 inches on either.
But you pointed out that a median has traffic going, at the last
Sure.
meeting, traffic going both
Oh, it
ways on
does.
either
I mean,
side of it.
yeah, there's no conflict
Sidewalks
there.
are, and sidewalks and medians have very different infrastructure purposes, especially ours, because we've highlighted, like, our medians really are not built for pedestrians. Sidewalks are inherently for pedestrians, so I really, you know, obviously you're hearing and we might be at an impasse, and I understand that there may not be votes or interest in changing it. I would really urge us to go forward with this median part. I understand the urgency and concern, while I still share concerns of my own related to it, but I could support just the median part. But as long as we're putting sidewalks in here when there's, our city design doesn't meet that and isn't about to for so many sidewalks or areas that don't have a sidewalk, and this doesn't
No
resolve.
issue- No issue on the, if
Yeah.
it doesn't have a sidewalk, then there's no issue, and.
And I just
as
wish, like,
tried
that's
to-
the pedestrian safety issue we have. I have a colleague whose,
But-
you know, uncle was in an area with no sidewalk and just got absolutely, like, in a wheelchair and just got absolutely wrecked. He didn't, like, that was, you know,
Yeah.
dismembered, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
we definitely need to take care of.
And like,
that,
one,
but-
I'd rather that we were going after safety issues like that, or cars that are going at too high of a speed, or lighting issues, than, which are so extremely dangerous. And again, I can understand these narrow medians, also dangerous, we have reckless drivers, but when we're going, I'd rather look at the drivers and vehicles that are dangerous and be going after our current laws than going after pedestrians on sidewalks. And I think I wanna trust what the application and discretion with police would look like today, but once you have something like this on the books, who knows how that gets used in the future, and it concerns me, especially since our design standards don't continuously meet
Can
it.
I
Yes.
answer? So when Deputy Chief Wilmerhauser was here last week, he said that they would use it as a, something to make them, not to write them a citation the first time or a second time, but at least to give them the warning,
Can we
hey, you
codify
can't be
that?
here.
Yeah, we can. We do it in our other ordinances.
That,
You can, it was done in the obstruction ordinance, I believe.
yeah. But also, can I ask you a question about the Uber?
Yeah.
I'm really concerned about that.
What about-
So, I mean, myself, when I call for an Uber, I'm not waiting for an Uber on a sidewalk. I'm making sure that I'm in a secure place, whether I'm in my house, if they're picking me up
Right.
from the home. If I'm at the mall or somewhere, I mean, I'm not asking for an Uber to come pick me up as if I'm standing on a sidewalk.
That happens.
She has the bar and entertainment
Yeah, the
district
bar
in her.
entertainment.
You
Yeah,
go
it
outside,
does.
the bar
But
closes,
We
you
don't
go
have taxis
outside.
anymore, so
Or
basically it's
this
de
is
facto
true in different
taxi.
parts of town. You go out, it's loud inside, you wait outside. That just happens a lot in the nightlife. And yeah, the app says to wait outside too. It's like, go be ready for your ride. And then you also are
That's all in a
looking.
different speed zone, right?
Well, not always. There's different
So-
entertainment areas that, like, there's bars people would go wait outside, and you usually
But
are.
there's also an app where you can watch your Uber driver.
Right, but what
come in,
happens is
so-
the app's only so precise. I'm just saying, like, for example, when you're at the airport, I have this happen to me all the time, where I'll see like 7 different cars that look like my Uber, and then I'm standing on the edge looking out, trying to find the license plate that matches to make sure I'm getting the right one, which is a big safety thing, especially for women. People really do, like, that is just how those rideshare apps and programs work. And there are areas where that is just what someone would do. Now, I understand again that hypothetically, that's not what the police would be looking for, so then I'm like, well, okay, what are they looking for? But that still doesn't get addressed in the policy. That is just, you're right, I would be concerned that people, there's a lot of safer things I'd love for people to do when it comes to ride shares, but people do, they go and you're standing at the edge of the sidewalk looking around for your car.
Are you
So,
done? Thank
yeah, I
you.
am.
I'm gonna go and then I have Jackie. Thank you for amending your slideshow presentation. I did the Google Earth audit myself, not looking for where we're meeting the standards, but for all the places that we aren't. And my biggest concern is the 18-inch regulations on sidewalks. Everything that Counselor Bella said, I agree with. They are made for pedestrians. I agree that maybe not all of them are made to the standards today that we would like, but they are made for pedestrians. I am concerned about the messaging somehow that only in Tulsa, Oklahoma, nowhere else in the country would we need to have an 18-inch buffer on a sidewalk. There's no other cities that have this, and I appreciate that maybe we could be the first, but I don't think it's good policy, given all that we just talked about. There's inequity in how the sidewalks exist in our community. There's inequity on how they're constructed in our community. So yes, Mingo widening, we got it all right, but if you just go 1 block to the south of that, no sidewalks on one side where somebody has been killed, and a patchwork of sidewalks on the other side that don't connect to each other. So I'm looking at community development funds to build that out. That's $500,000 to piecemeal one side of one major road where we have Veterans Affairs, hospitals, major intersection to 169, plus high-density housing and more coming. So it's a concern. The other thing that's concerning to me, when we say anything over 10 feet wide, y'all come. Guess where those medians are, Counselor? Right in between our districts, in District 5, 8, 7.
Can I clarify that point
Yeah.
real fast? We're not saying y'all come on any of the medians. We're regulating the 18 inches on either side of the median.
Yes, but what I
And
heard
so-
last week, if you're over 10 feet, you don't need to wear the vest, you can be there any hours of the day, because we're not regulating that. Was that
Because they've
accurate?
been determined to be public fora. So,
Right,
so
so-
they still can't be,
Yeah.
still can't be within 18 inches of the
Yeah.
roadway.
So my brief research, because I didn't prepare to bring this ordinance forward, and I've been scrambling to try to fill in the
Yep.
gaps. So roadway median on item C1, as defined in this ordinance, shall mean the reserved area that separates lanes of traffic on divided roadways, whether curbed, painted, or unmarked, and whether or not the area is elevated above the surface of the roadway designated for vehicular traffic. So there's some painted medians in town, we all can think of those. in my research, there's a delineation in the same standards that you're talking about to justify the 18 inches, where they actually separate the definition of a median versus a pedestrian refuge island in the language. So pedestrian refuge island are those ones that have the crosswalk that goes through them. We can think like on Riverside by the Gathering Place. Down Yale has some of them. Some parts of Memorial that gets closer to District 5 have where you have the median, whether it's usually like a cement raised platform, sometimes clay colored. And at the end, the crosswalk is actually in a curb cut to go through. So going back to the discussion we had last week, which is if we say all medians too broad, we already know there's precedent to say that's too broad. I'm wondering if we could add this definition of pedestrian refuge islands so that we delineate between the two uses. Those refuge islands are built for pedestrians. So could we not say medians and then add the refuge island, and then the refuge island is the one that we do not regulate because it's for
It's already
pedestrians?
it should be unregulated because it does say that those who are taking reasonable time to cross the intersection.
Right, but right now that applies to all of them, correct?
Yeah, but I think
But you can't stand on them.
No, you can stand on medians if you're making your way across the
Reasonable.
road and, right, using them as a refuge island, like as a temporary refuge island,
Right.
whether or not it has the curb cut or not.
Okay. And what I'm saying, is there any way just to say if the median was not designed for pedestrian use, like, a lot of ours are landscaped. I think they're more for beautification and or vehicular buffering than anything else. It's not like come have a picnic in the 14-foot wide median, right? That's where that's one of the places I'm struggling, because where the wider ones are still highly trafficked areas, where the activity that we've talked about before, fundraisers, solicitation, leafleting, whatever, I feel like would concentrate in those areas because they are wider and they are like not as, gonna be as scrutinized as these other places that we're talking about. And they happen to be
So
a lot in District 7.
we should let Jack and or Sarah answer your question. I don't think my answer is the final answer because they may, I mean, they're the ones who are experts in this.
So I'll just say, in the definitions I have found in other ordinances that do this thing, a median means the area between opposing lanes of traffic excluding turn lanes, and a pedestrian refuge island means a median crossing facility designed for pedestrian use, aligned to a crosswalk, and providing a minimum refuge width of 6 feet with ADA compliant detectable warnings.
Right, so there's a lot there. So the intent of a refuge island is to provide temporary refuge as you are crossing the road. And so I think under this, the definition that's in the current ordinance, that would be allowed. I mean, you can, not just on these with designated kind of crosswalks through the island, but any median, you can use it for respite as you are crossing the road. So is your question, can we prohibit standing on any medians except for those that are specifically designated with crosswalks?
That is a question I have. I also have a question, even a reasonable time, if we're talking about the 2-foot wide ones that are really not made for that at all. Right now, again, I didn't do a full audit of the whole city, but I focused on.
Oh, yeah, none of us
I
have time to do
focused
that.
on the major arterials and the major intersections that are in my community mostly, although I did take a look into District 5, like nearby. I'm just like most of the ones that I saw that are narrow, there's this crosswalk that goes straight through if it's a signalized intersection. There's not like a median interrupting the crosswalk. So are we saying like, I'm too slow and I jump on the, 24-inch median to wait? I don't think we want that. I don't want that.
Well, it might be necessary if you're waiting for a light or waiting for traffic to stop, to stop there momentarily while you make your way across the other lanes of traffic, which would be allowed.
So even though there's not 18 inches on either side of the narrow ones, you
I
can
mean,
still
that-
stop
anyone
there
would
for a
say
reasonable
that's-
time?
reasonable if traffic's
Yeah.
not stopped and you can't make your way across.
Okay.
And that's a,
Yeah, and I think whenever I was reading through that, I was like, I don't want them standing out there because it is dangerous for them, but at least they're in between lanes of traffic, not standing in a lane of traffic whenever they're trying to cross the road. I mean,
Right.
we are trying to get people across the road, and there could be instances when, something goes wrong because of whatever they're doing whenever they're walking across the road, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just feel like it's shifting the impacts of the areas that have more narrow medians straight into my community, and it's an unintended consequence that I feel like I needed to ask about. The other thing is, in my research, there's no city in America that is saying the 18 inches from the curb, you cannot stand in it. There are that say you can't sit, lie, you can't block, yes, but there are none that say you cannot stand here. And I just think it's overreach. At this point, we have other laws.
For the sidewalk.
Yes, governing our sidewalks. We did a very intensive right-of-way obstruction ordinance. You and I workshopped it, brought it to this table, brought it back to the community. I think we took 9 or 10 months to do that. And I think for the most part, it's probably working. I know, as Davis would always say, like, as it existed before, there weren't very many citations. I don't know if we pulled data to say how many citations since then, but I imagine it's another tool in the toolbox. We already have laws that say you cannot step into the roadway. So if we're gonna talk about panhandlers, which I know you guys don't wanna talk about, but the public is talking about, this ordinance is gonna get rid of the panhandlers. And the reason I know is those are the messages I'm receiving. Please support Lakin's ordinance to get rid of the panhandlers. So I'm not saying that you have said that, I'm saying that is the interpretation. So the expectation is, this will remove them from our site and beautify our city because we won't have to see it. It definitely will not. I do share the same concerns if it's not, someone leaving a nightclub to catch an Uber, and if it's not cheerleaders fundraising or holding signs, come to our car wash, like, who is it for? I think the feedback I'm getting from many, many people is that it's for the people who are most vulnerable right now. And so we're kind of concentrating on seeing them in a desperate situation that none of us want, while we're doing some other things for the first time in ways we haven't. But the expectation here that somehow, and I'm getting anecdotes, like even just talking about it and announcing it has made it like, so I don't see it. So, I don't know where those people are gonna go. I have a feeling the Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a human being will put them seeking cash in other spaces and places that in other cities, it just shifts to, whether it's at the gas station or in front of, highly trafficked restaurant row, which some of us definitely have in our district. So I would like for the sidewalks to not have the 18-inch thing. I think to your point, when we build them right, it's already enumerated. It's either a little bricked area or it's got grass, and just most of the time people aren't gonna walk on the thing that's different. But because we're not there yet, and because no other city in the country regulates in terms of enforcement, standing in 18 inches that I'm aware of that I could find, I just think it's like a bridge too far. I think our police officers already have too much to enforce, and they already have tools in the toolbox. That, again, if we go on the traffic violation side of vehicles, also enforcement. The other thing is, I appreciate the statewide data. I don't know what's going on that we're not using the BPAC. Is there something happened with, BPAC doesn't exist?
Right.
So when did that happen?
Last
year?
year, maybe the year before.
Well, that's unfortunate because they were specifically studying, we went on a walk audit, a lot of you did, specifically studying impacts in Tulsa. So that is a loss to the whole community that they don't exist anymore. I guess that means like as an entity of like INCOG, they don't exist anymore, but they could
Yeah.
maybe reorganize.
information.
Huh?
They still have
We met
information.
They don't
with
actually.
their chair, vice chair, one of their board members 6 months ago or something like that, just kind of thinking through what we could do to keep them together. And I don't think we came up with any conclusions yet, but it's not to say that we won't.
Are they a city entity or an INCOG entity?
I think at one time they were supported by INCOG, and then when planning came back over here, I think maybe they Their most recent support was the design studio. I think one outcome we got out of that conversation was really for them to really be effective in their work and supported in their work, they need somebody centrally here that they help inform and helps them work through projects. And that person probably is an urban design planner, which you funded in the budget last year. And the urban design planner, that position's listed right now. I don't think it's been filled yet, though.
Okay.
So, whether they take on BPAC or not, but that seemed to be a theme of our conversation, that they do need a central support to help drive their projects and implement projects.
Well, and I'll just say, in the time that they have consulted with us on other ordinances, I've never heard them say, please get people off to 18 inches of the sidewalk. They've said things like, let's help drivers understand how bike lanes work or don't work. Let's talk about some of these other things. And the data then, that makes sense for why their data has not been updated since January of 2023. I will say, I also reached out to the chair and vice chair of the former entity, I suppose at this point, and they cannot get their open records request fulfilled on crash data. So I have issued that request, and I thank Ms. Davis for sending me, the stuff that we did have access to. But, they had interactive maps where you could really see if it was a bike, pedestrian, was it a fatal injury, was it, a lot of details. And they would go and put eyes on every place that it happened in this city, so they would really understand. So the one that you showed us, according to the conversations I've had, is a terrible tragedy that happened, but it's because someone was speeding, hit another car, and they went into the median and killed that individual and injured others. But according to these folks, up until now, that's the only median death that's happened. It's one too many. But I think when we're really honing in on where the safety impacts are in the city of Tulsa, with the data that we do have, more than 50% of pedestrian injuries are in a signalized crosswalk. And so we talked a little bit about that last week.
In the whereases, in the recitals, it does cite another case where two people standing in the center median at Admiral and Yale. I don't know if that's your district. Is that your district?
Well, it depends.
Is it a
One
painted-
was killed and
is it
one
a
was
painted
hospitalized.
No,
On Admiral, they're not the painted ones?
and I don't believe they even have sidewalks.
You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it says
long
standing in the
story
center
short,
median.
I can get behind the median regulation.
So that would be, wait a minute, I'm trying to think, there's only two mediums, and that would be on Yale, actually, on the north and south juncture, or one. I mean, so to utilize that as an example, they would have to be on the median if they were crossing the street. Otherwise, they would be in the street, because there aren't medians like you would find out south, even 18-inch, so.
Yeah, I'll
You know,
look.
that's-
I don't know, that's,
I can get behind the medians. I do have concerns that I wanted to voice. The ones that are wider than 10 feet happen to exist at a larger volume in my district than others. And so I will be watching to see if it shifts activities that are an unintended consequence. And when you say no here, people are gonna find where is the yes. And I share Counselor Bellis's concerns about the 18 inches on sidewalks. I understand that there's design standards, but as I did my research, that is different than now enforcing pedestrian behavior to those standards. And I just think, given all that we have going on in our community and the fact that TPD is already under-resourced to the point where even getting traffic enforcement becomes like a big ask, and getting the units to go and do a concentrated effort on the people that are speeding, running red lights, and all the things that we know cause all manner of accidents and crashes. I would just like to leave the sidewalks alone. We could go through anecdotes right here on Second Street. We have the stage door at the TPAC. When artists are coming out and the public's waiting for them, it is full, and it could
Under
be an
25.
obstruction issue, but,
so you're okay there.
yeah, it's just,
You kind of have to
even-
think through it in the filtered way, and just like Counselor Bellis said, you can apply this two different ways from a sidewalk perspective, or maybe you said it, because you do have that grass median or that stamped concrete or whatever. So that's a given, but from my standpoint, it even it even makes the law less applicable in very many areas. So you're really just focusing in on those areas that we haven't had a chance to get to make it as safe as possible. So we're making iterative progress.
But a lot of those
Most of
places
the times
are-
we do the rehabs and other things, we're going in and rebuilding the sidewalk, moving the sidewalk, building the sidewalk for the first time, and we're building it to those good urban standards, urban design standards. So in the interim though, it's, and I've already said this, so I'm gonna say it one more time, then I'll try to keep from saying it again. It's just, we have the standard of, and maybe it's just the way that we constructed this to begin with. We decided to use the standard of 18 inches because that's the federal standard, that's our local standard, that's a standard used by other state-based engineers. And so once you use that 18-inch standard, then it is applicable to something that somebody can sit on in the center of a roadway or on the side of a roadway. You still have traffic in either case. So that's why I
Yeah,
continue
no,
to support it.
I totally
but-
understand the rationale,
Yeah,
I'm saying I
okay.
don't agree with it.
Yeah, that's-
Urban
and
design
that's totally-
standards
that's
don't necessarily
totally
need
fine.
to lead to pedestrian behavior enforcement, I think that's what Counselor Bellis was saying, she's not here, I'm gonna get to you in just one more second. So, just to be very clear, I can support the median thing, I am gonna be watching for a transfer of activity.
Yep.
And if it comes up, we're gonna have to have a conversation about that. The sidewalk thing, 18 inches is a complete no-go for me. And I don't care, you know, if we can justify it, there's no other city in this country that's doing that. And as a group of people that work so hard to try to pedestrianize and make it more walkable here, I worry that the messaging is like sidewalks aren't safe. So I know we're not explicitly saying that, but I know when I'm in places where like there's a yellow, you know, delineation, whether it's a subway platform or a loading zone, like that's cluing in, like don't be here. And I don't think we're suggesting put yellow borders in all the places we don't have the brick or the lawn. And so knowing what I know about this community where sidewalks exist, don't have the upgrades, it's just, to me, that's a bridge too far. The final thing is the fees. You put up some comps, San Francisco and Seattle, $100 and $50, way high cost of living. Way higher cost of living than here, so
Houston,
impact.
$500.
I understand. And so it might not be something we get done today, but this conversation has reminded me that when we did the fines and fees work, we said we were gonna use an equity lens when we're setting fines and fees. And so if we're not gonna do it today because it's been 150 and nobody brought it up, I will say we have a new leader here that has drawn our attention to it, then we definitely need to come back and look at those things, because when we consider the who that Counselor Bellis asked about, there are going to be people in our community that this is enforced on repeatedly. And I do wanna say, the idea of like, let's connect them to services through a book to court works sometimes, and that's why we invest in those things. But I will also say, when I talk to our housing and homeless advocates, they are concerned that that puts someone out of the pathway to housing for 6 more months because of the warrants and the time to go through the process of the alternative courts and all of that. And so that is something that was brought to my attention last week, that it takes them out of some of them will be off the pathway to be rehoused because they have these outstanding programs they have to complete, or, you know, whatever is, put them in the court system. So that was new information. It's not something I've ever been told before, and, you know, I just think we need to be very mindful. There are people that will be more impacted, more warnings, more citations, more books to court than other people who are using the sidewalks. So, and I do just want to unequivocally state for anyone who's very got a wrong idea about this will not remove panhandlers from the city of Tulsa, and it certainly will not remove people experiencing poverty who are looking for help. So I've gotten, most of my messages have been specifically about that piece of this, and continued misinformation about the city of Tulsa distributes day-glow vests, and we allow people to do these things. They still do not understand that we are regulating time, place, and manner in ways that we can. So nobody at the city of Tulsa is distributing vests, there's no permitting to be able to do those things. We do have event permits when we're shutting down streets, but I've gotten all manner of, it's not fair to make people get permits to be on the medians. We don't have that, so as we continue to have these discussions, I think we also need to myth bust, because for whatever reason, one person says a thing and then it spreads. I will say even your graphic of like vests on, vests off caused some confusion that I had to clarify, so.
We worked a long
I
time on
know.
that to make it as simple as possible.
I know, and there were people that were really paying attention and wanted to like argue with me about it.
Megan and her team did too.
Exactly, so it does cause confusion when we do these things. So for me, medians, I would prefer if we were a little more specific about the ones that are used for pedestrians because they're designed that way, but if that's not possible, but the sidewalk thing's a no for me, and whether we do the 150 tonight or not, we definitely need to take a look at that because we are going to see impacts in the opposite direction of all the work that we committed to doing when we wanted to reduce warrants and fines and fees. That work, they're in opposition of each other with this, specifically Jackie.
A couple questions before I get involved in data here. So I wanted to know, when was the 18-inch, when was that established?
Oh, gosh, from AASHTO, when was that established?
The 18-inch from
It's a
the
federal,
curb?
I mean, it's a federal standard, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I'm just wondering because
Like if it
if you go
predates our
into
time.
the
Like, it's-
older areas of Tulsa, there is no 18-inch delineation.
Like, when did we start building to that standard?
Yeah, and so,
That's
and when was
Um,
it actually
Well,
incorporated?
but some of those roads, they were like 2-lane roads, or they were buggy roads, or something like that, and then
Well, it's a
we
highway
didn't have
standard,
the,
too.
we didn't have the right-of-way necessary to get a full, well, there are four full lanes on there, but there's just not a lot of right-of-way room for everything else, so.
No, and I understand, and that's why I'm asking, when was it established? That 18-inch corridor was actually determined
It's-
for
It's in the-
cities. So,
Policy of geometric design of highways and streets.
well, that gets changed probably more frequent than we realize, but I'm just wondering because, as you know, South Tulsa is much newer and has a lot.
It's the same age.
You know what I mean, sir. But I appreciate that, thank you. It's much newer in infrastructure.
I know what you're saying, I was
And
just kidding.
subdivisions and commercial properties and whatnot. So that being said, I think when I moved here 30 years ago, they were just barely developing 61st Street South. And
Mhm.
so that tells me that areas probably north of 31st Street had been developed a lot sooner without a lot of these standards already in place. And you can actually go into
About a year.
northeast Tulsa, North Tulsa, 85. So, I mean, that's not that long ago when you think about those standards being.
40 years.
Well, but those standards weren't set in District 3.
Oh, I know.
District.
Well, in
I know what
District,
you're saying.
okay, so
Oh, I know
I'm
what you're
just,
saying. That,
right, so I'm
But
saying.
some roads have been redone. It's hard, you have the floor, and I want to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm just saying that those standards were not enforced in many areas of Tulsa. So that 18-inch variance that we're talking about is still a problem, and that the last meeting we had, I did not hear any conversation in regards to actual pedestrians being the problem. The problem I heard was, and these are in emails I get, I think it was brought to the forefront, Counselor Gilbert, when she said that homeless people are going out into the street and panhandling. I think people.
Did I say that?
Yeah. People, you can go back and watch the meeting.
Okay.
And people take that we are targeting and profiling a certain population. But the conversation also, I think, from Counselor Bush said the effect of speeding and distracted driving. And I heard a lot of complaints at that meeting about vehicle irresponsibility, which leads me back to the fact that we did not really talk about the dangerous pedestrians in the median, which we have the tools and resources already to address traffic enforcement issues, period. And so, to those points, there's some data that, and the data here, when we talk about the very first part where you have, whereas according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration data, 17% of all fatality crashes involve pedestrians, and 74% of these pedestrian crashes happen at non-intersection locations.
That was
And
in that data that I showed.
that, yes, but that's vague in that those findings also include drivers that are highly intoxicated. I believe in pedestrian deaths, 48% of all pedestrian deaths are due to intoxication. 85% occur in rural areas.
Opposite, actually.
Right, more pedestrian fatalities occurred in the dark after the time frame that we're talking about. That's 78%. 88% of pedestrian fatalities occurred in single vehicle crashes, which would follow suit with the distracted, the speeding, the intoxication. Nearly 1 out of every 4 pedestrians killed in traffic crashes were struck by hit-and-run drivers. There's a lot to be said about that, too. We don't know, if you're gonna hit and run, you're probably running because maybe you don't have insurance, or you're intoxicated, or you've got stuff in your car you don't wanna get stopped with. And then there's also an incredible breakdown on the number of people in, to include children, and this data also includes children in driveways. They're considered pedestrians as well as young children after school. Most pedestrian fatalities occur after 6 p.m. And so the highest rate of fatalities, pedestrian fatalities after 6 p.m. occur for children, followed by seniors. So we're not talking people in medians that are panhandling or begging for money or whatever have you. So I'm a little, I'm thinking we need some clarity to create a narrative that safety is a priority, but also the fact that there are many areas of Tulsa that do not have sidewalks, that do not have 18-inch areas that are able to go through. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, when you talked about your mirror, driving on Lewis, that's an older area of Tulsa as well. So
Yep.
it's not,
Fair.
and then the comment was made that if you were a pedestrian, you wouldn't want to walk on that sidewalk. I get that, but that's what the sidewalks are for, and so.
In
the-
that area.
The fact, well, and it doesn't have, because it was created before that 18-inch variance was approved, but the
I
fact
don't
that.
understand. Can you explain that part? I don't know what you're
Well,
talking about there.
we're talking about that 18 inches you're talking about from the curb in.
But it's still, but if you have a 4-foot sidewalk or a 5-foot sidewalk, you still have 18 inches of that, so 1.5 feet.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the sidewalk is for pedestrians and not truck mirrors, is what I'm saying. And that's, so I'm wanting clarity in that I think that we're trying to penalize and criminalize our way out of poverty by profiling individuals. And I am not okay with any of that.
Can I explain the
Sure.
mirror thing?
Sure.
Okay, so if I have a 10, I don't know how wide my truck is, I don't really know. So let's say I have an 8-foot truck and the lane is 10 feet wide, I have to keep like a foot on either side and there's a truck next to me. Then, yeah, I could be very, very close to that curb in the outside lane, which means my mirror is going to be out over the curb line of that sidewalk.
You should send a PSA when you drive
So-
on Lake Peoria.
It's not just me, there's
know, I'm
lots of
just
truck
saying.
owners. So I don't know how wide my mirror is. I mean, do you think 10 inches, 8 inches? It's a
No,
big mare.
And I understand, but those streets and the sidewalks, as you know, and I know, that we're not,
But it hangs out over that curve.
but we didn't have
and that
vehicles
portion
that
of the
did
side.
that in the time
But we
that
do
was
now.
on.
That's-
Well, and
that's
that's
the point.
why I think
You're right,
if
like
we
I see what you're saying, the
create.
streetcar like
Yeah,
era of the city.
if we
Okay.
actually
We're just
had
saying,
improvements that the
this
city
is a-
paid for.
This is a safety zone. You can walk in there because we're not regulating your walking. I'm going to advise people, don't walk there because they could get hit by a mirror, they could, a driver
You're allowed
could
to
be.
walk there if you
Yeah,
can't stand,
I just,
right?
Oh, right, that's what I'm saying, they can walk there. My advice is going to be, don't walk there because you could get hit by a mirror, somebody could be reading
so
their
that's
phone.
a
they
traffic
could-
thing then. It's not necessarily a pedestrian thing.
But it is a pedestrian thing whenever you're a pedestrian and you get hit.
Well,
I mean, it becomes a pedestrian
By a
thing
car
right away.
encroaching on pedestrians.
Yeah,
So-
I just-
We don't have 9,000
I
cops
don't
to
think
slow
we're,
everybody down.
I don't think we're finding consensus through this discussion, other than I think 3 of us here are struggling
I
with the
have-
18-inch buffer.
And I have one more
Yes.
point that, to your point about the fee always being that way, things don't always need to remain as they have always been. And so I think that the opportunity to change narratives and change possible fees based on where we are today with the housing crisis, with the unhoused population increasing, minimum wage still $7.25. I think that we're imposing fines on people that are least able to pay them, and it clogs the court system. I don't care what anybody says, it clogs the court system. So, and I think that's a strategy that's no win. But they are the most visible people out there, so of course you're going to profile them, because you can catch one person over 40 drivers. So, so that's just where I'm coming from, and still have reservations.
The other issue that was brought to my attention, and that Councilor Hall Harper brought to our attention, and that Councilor Thurl Kanizik brought to our attention the last time we revisited policy on sidewalks, is the right to assemble and freedom of speech. That has come to my attention. Councilor Hall Harper has surfaced it multiple times. I appreciate that 2700 North Peoria is a place that has all the things, but that might not be the business you're trying to protest, right? And so the idea of like, just move to the safe place, if the protest is attached to a specific place, that makes it sound like we're trying to encroach on where people can assemble and do the thing. Right now in my community, 71st and South Memorial is a place that people are showing up to be heard, and that is one of those places that has the stamped buffer. Again, I wouldn't even walk on probably any of that sidewalk, just because the rate of speed that people drive through there, way over the limit posted, and no traffic enforcement. I would like to see traffic enforcement out there, especially as more people are taking into the pedestrian corridor to be heard and exercise their rights of free speech. It's happening at 41st and Yale, it's happening at 11th and Yale, it happens in District 1 at key places. I think all of us can think of the places where any manner of people assemble to be exercising their constitutional rights. So that was surfaced. I did not receive a great answer about why that's not infringing on their rights. I guess they could keep moving and do more of a picket line type approach, but, you know.
That raises accessibility concerns, I think.
I just, if we could not regulate the 18-inch buffer on the sidewalk, I think I could be supportive of this ordinance as proposed, even though I have big concerns about the medians in general, shifting activities. And if people would be open to lowering the fee to like $50 book to court, I would be supportive of that. And, you know, we don't need to do a deep dive on like all the things, but we know this is going to impact certain individuals in our community right now who are already suffering. And if we're really saying this is not about harming them or punishing them or making their lives more miserable, then the very least we could do is lower the fee, because they will be impacted. Some of them will have multiple citations and be interacting with law enforcement in a more direct way than they have before, because the expectation is, yes, we know when we put a regulation in place, a lot of people just automatically comply. There are some people, for whatever reason, they don't or they can't. And so that is going to put them in more direct contact and an expectation from the public. We put this law in place, so we want to see it enforced. Right.
Can I ask you a
Yes,
point of
Councilor Fish.
information on the
Sure.
fines and fees, because I'm new?
Yeah.
You said that there was a task force that looked at the long list that you had at the last meeting before? Or
I
when
don't-
was the last time where our fine and fees were?
I will
I
put
don't
it
know
to
if
our
there's been a
chairman
fine
who's on
overhaul.
fines
I
and
looked
fees.
at it when
2018.
Jack were you still here in the council office?
I was just trying to figure out how
Or
long
you-
it was then.
I was, let me just
2018.
frame
Was it a
this
whole
up, because
list
I don't wanna
though, or
assume
how did
that
I
our
wasn't here for
counselors
that either.
or people
It
know.
was-
So in 2019, Counselor, we had a whole deep dive into the justice area of the equality indicators.
Yeah.
And out of all that work, that took like 2 years, out of that came a fines and fees group that really looked at the data that was saying 40% of arrests in Tulsa are for people with failure to pay and failure to appear, which is a key indicator of poverty or lack of transportation or any number of things.
Right.
So it gets them stuck in this loop. So Counselor Lakin, we've had an iteration of others in and out of that committee, did the work to then come to the table and say, let's take 6.5 million out of ARPA and really do these things to help access to court and these other scale up, right? So that was our fines and fees. We also had a police data group and a accountability and transparency group. Those two groups still have lack of investment in the policies we propose, so they'll probably be coming back to revisit now that we have a new group of folks around the table. But fines and fees of those 3 working groups got their policies forward and the investment made. So what I'm saying, through that work, we were talking about an equity lens, and sometimes things would come forward, and it's like, oh, we didn't know that was $100. That seems high, right? Given the reality of today and some Tulsans that are really suffering, so.
Well, I just didn't know if it was time to review it again.
I think it's always time
That's
to
what
review
I'm asking.
it.
I think it
Yeah.
seems like a,
I think we've kind
Across
of
the
been,
board, yeah,
we've kind of been
holistically,
applying it
yeah.
as we've gone, because we know we all agree, like, we don't wanna snag people that way. So Counselor Dutton being here with fresh eyes is saying 150 seems high, and I agree, given who we know this is gonna impact and how. I would love to see if we could find consensus around $50 book to court. There's other manners of citations that are $50 book to court. And maybe add the warning provision that we already had in the right-of-way ordinance, because I think we did codify that first it would be educative, and then after that, you know, you do a carrot and stick approach. Counselor Dutton.
So I just wanted to include that the data, when you do a deeper dive, does not support that the people in the medians are really at danger. And, well,
Not
that's
from-
what the
not
data
from-
shows.
Well, not the data, I read the same data, and I believe that it shows just the opposite, so. 9% of the accidents occur in medians, sidewalks, driveways, those kinds of things, so that's as.
Well, the data that we have for Tulsa, though, does not support that people in the medians are dangerous. Not that
The
the
two
loss of
people
life,
who-
not that the loss of life does not count. It counts. It counts especially to the family.
so you're saying it's like those are tragic incidents,
Those
but not
are-
necessarily a trend?
Right,
Is that what
that's,
you're-
yeah, it's not necessarily a trend, and then, you know, to talk about it in terms like it's trend, I have issues with that.
So I don't know that we're any further in making actual amendments, but it's after 4:00, which means at 5:00, this is on 7G. This one has not, this is moving forward, you know, people were wondering if they can come make comment. Yes, you can. I don't know about the other one, if they can still make comment, 'cause it's on first reading. I'll leave that to other people to
What's the other one?
discuss. The one from this morning, that we decided not to put it for a vote, but it's on the agenda, and so people are wondering, do they still come? And it's first reading, so no, they wouldn't comment anyway, but, is this just a thing where when we're at the table, we go ahead and make the amendments if that's what we wanna put forward on the motion, or are we in a place, I saw some eyes opened around a $50 or something, so is there some language that can be drafted up?
Can I comment just on the
Yeah.
fines? So I would prefer we stick with what we have and go through a process so that we can, if we need to do any level setting, that we can have more time to do the level setting. Whenever I went through with Jack and probably Sarah and probably a few other people, we were able to just say, look, this looks like something that is more unsafe than this activity. So obviously, running a red light is more unsafe than running a yellow light, or entering the intersection during a yellow light versus entering the intersection during a red light. We already have pedestrians outside of a crosswalk, that's a $100 fine. If you don't wear a helmet or don't wear goggles, $135 to $150 fine. So there are already things out there that people are doing, which we believe are problematic to their safety. So I think whenever you look at the entirety of things, then we would be better able to say, look, 150 is right, because it is dangerous to be out there in the medians. Maybe if sidewalks goes forward, it's not as serious of an issue. So I would prefer that it stay the same until somebody can take the lead and take a deeper dive on all of these, all the fines. It doesn't have to be just the pedestrian-related ones, it could be the moving-related ones and the pedestrian-related ones too.
It's just been.
It's a healthy exercise.
Yes, and I agree, we can do a comprehensive look that way, just as they've come through is where we make the language changes on gender neutral language, or we have been doing a bit of an analysis on the fees as they cross our table. I think I just heard something though, like if the sidewalks aren't regulated, I'm just checking with my colleagues here who are, it seems like the colleagues there are like, let's just do the thing as we drafted, so that's totally fine. And that's why when you co-sponsor, you send a very strong signal about we're good. So the four of us are deliberating how this is gonna go. So if the sidewalk regulations are removed in terms of the 18-inch buffer, I think what I heard over here, then the activity is really on the medians that we're looking at, and is 150 a stringent, please don't be here, versus sidewalks are a place that we ask people to be.
Yeah.
And so if they're still gonna be on the sidewalks, then we need to be looking at like a $50. That's kind of what I just heard you say.
Yeah, I'm
That,
like,
and
if-
can we,
but if you
and
go
can we
through that-
revisit codifying that, like, warning system too, right? Like, if the idea is
See a
like.
hesitation.
Well, just on the warning, I think Jack probably has it pulled up. It's, the obstruction one didn't have a per se warning. It had like an affirmative defense to it.
Right, it
But-
says, it's an affirmative defense to a violation if the obstruction is caused by a person, is as a result of injury or equipment failure for which the person must be rendered aid, and the person accepts aid when offered by a peace officer or other city officials. So
Right, like if
It's not-
someone's actually hurt and that's why.
Can we
they're-
add that for the median situation that we talked about, like, crossing
And
through?
if someone is within 18 inches because of injury or equipment failure,
Yeah,
That makes sense, like if someone's in like a motorized, like
or
wheelchair
stroller
that got
wheel fell
loses
off,
power.
and, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that you might get stuck out there for, because the reasonableness, right, is really just discretionary. Some people would say reasonable is one turn of the light, and then you better get through.
I think why people are remembering the warning is that was suggested, but the actual implementation of warning is, well, then what if I just move down 2 feet? Then do I have to be warned again? Then do I move down? Do I have to be
Right.
warned again? And so, when we worked with, different people were running Way Home for Tulsa at the time, but when we worked with Way Home for Tulsa, that's where we came
Yeah.
to that language, to resolve that concern.
Yeah, and for me, those people being in the medians is highly unsafe. It's far more unsafe than the things we regulate right now, whether or not somebody wears a pair of goggles whenever they're on a motorcycle. Come on. I mean,
How often is that enforced, counselor?
I don't know, but it's on the books. I mean, we
I
can still.
agree, so
I know,
stepping
but
into
we're-
the roadway, and it's not enforced right now.
No, it is.
Because we
But setting
don't,
up at a boat is.
we don't
Yeah.
have people to do it. So it sounds like if city legal could draft some amendments that we might have at the table with us, I don't know that we'll be able to even bring them forward, but
the preset fine is easy, that's just a number to sub out. This, I could strike the word obstruction and insert language specific to this ordinance, I suppose.
and I'll have to look at the ordinance, but where the 18 inches on sidewalk is, I mean, there's several layers here, so I don't know if on this, we take separate votes on each provision, or if someone just says as submitted, then we just vote as submitted.
Anyway, I do just want, if we could get some legal clarity, I know this like is a tight window for you, Jack. I'm just, with the sidewalk obstruction policy we have, and this, when you do the 18 inches and you're asking for reasonable clearance, I'm just trying to understand, where do those two things overlap? If we're like, reasonable clearance is about this many feet to be ADA compliant, 4 feet, right? If a sidewalk, say, I'm picturing a sidewalk that's 5 feet, does the 18 inches cut into that 4 feet? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do those two overlap? As like,
And
does
where that could come into play is assembly on sidewalks, where people, even if they keep it moving, cause it sounds like.
they keep it
if
moving or
come-
they're outside of that space, but then if someone has to pass or
Exactly.
stop, I'm just trying to understand if you have this many feet and you have the 18 inches, does that cut
Obviously,
into
that's-
the?
But you only have
Very
5 feet of sidewalk.
Very site-specific, obviously. In some areas, you have the
Right.
buffer strip, then the sidewalk, then more right-of-way.
Right.
That may extend
So-
several feet beyond that.
So that has plenty of clearance for people to get through on either side, but
But
in places where, I'm just picturing, okay, on 11th Street going into downtown by like Woodlawn Cemetery, you have a narrow sidewalk, you don't have that buffer space, people walk along there, like it's right, the bike path's there, that's how you would get to like Cherry Street or something, that's
People
narrow.
assemble
Same with
there.
50th Street, yeah, people assemble there, or people, again, they might be walking, but I'm just imagining, if you add 18 inches, there's like a fence, there's X number of feet of sidewalk, but probably not 4 feet. I'm just trying to, like, does that cut into like, hey, like you lose a certain amount of clearance? I just don't, I'm trying to imagine how these two conceptual, physical distances overlap with each other in policy.
Or do
if
you have
that
2
makes sense.
infractions if you're there?
I don't know. Oh, that's a question. I don't know.
Or you live in North Tulsa where we don't have any
Right.
buffer.
And there's not a number in the obstruction ordinance that
Right.
confirm that. So it really is just allowing
From the
passage.
street to the
Okay.
side.
So,
Okay.
and that's kind of, even ACLU guidelines kind of incorporate that notion that when you're protesting, you leave passage for
Yeah.
people on public sidewalks. And
That's new.
So,
Yeah.
Hold on.
and again,
Let's listen to Jack.
it would be
Right.
site-specific, but if, I'd just have to look at that area. If there's an opportunity for people to assemble and allow passage, then that would be fine. If not, then one or the other or both may have to move kind of horizontally to get,
Okay.
to allow passage.
I know it's like hyper situation.
And but that corridor has a lot of pedestrians, and it has the Center for Individuals with Disabilities. I mean, it's a corridor with bikes coming in and out of the area to go into the, to go south.
The 11th Street actually
Yeah,
is one of the
11th Street,
trickiest
and
ones for
it's
this.
part of town
with
that we're all gonna
hospitals,
be
too.
celebrating soon and saying, y'all come and get on the route, and then it's like, but don't be on the sidewalk. The sidewalk piece is really giving me heartburn. So we are 20 minutes past 4 o'clock. I think, we're as far as we're gonna get on this discussion today, and so I'm gonna adjourn the meeting if there's no further discussion, and then we should reconvene at 4:30. Thank you.